Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Dragon Prince Yuan Season 2 episode number 13 based on novel. So let's start. Within the blue light was an enormous ice bird, while Ju Yuan and Luluo were seated on its back. Ju Yuan's brows were slightly furrowed as he looked behind and mumbled to himself, the youth in black robes should be the one who joined hands with Wu Huang to injure Yao Yao, Yiming. He is indeed no ordinary person. Although Yiming had yet to do anything earlier, Ju Yuan's spirit senses could feel that the level of threat he posed was no less than Wu Huang. Wu Huang, Yiming plus Zhu Ying. The lineup on the other side was clearly much stronger than Luluo and him. That's why Ju Yuan did not entertain any thoughts of taking them on, but instead made use of the clash with Wu Huang to decisively escape. Ju Yuan, we've entered the fog. It will disrupt our senses, making it very troublesome. Luluo was rather worried. Ju Yuan shook his head. We had no choice. A single second later, and they would have unleashed their full power to stop us. If we were trapped, it will be extremely unfavorable. Only by entering the fog can we try to shake them off. Luluo angrily gnashed her teeth. Those bastards, taking advantage of their numbers. When we join up with Big Sis Yao Yao and the rest, just see if I won't kill them. She was the little country lord of the Thousand Beast Empire. How could she suffer the indignity of being forced to flee? Ju Yuan chuckled, much more open-minded in comparison. His eyes narrowed slightly as he recalled his earlier clash with Wu Huang. It was obvious that he was already much stronger than before. In their previous clash, he had practically been overwhelmed without any resistance, but just earlier, he had been able to receive Wu Huang's attack head-on. This spoke volumes about his progress. Wu Huang, I wonder how you're feeling now. The corners of Ju Yuan's mouth curled slightly. Ju Yuan's expression suddenly changed as he looked towards the dense fog behind them where faint ripples could be seen. Luluo, increase our speed. They've come chasing. Luluo was startled. Even after we entered the fog. Are they not afraid of losing their bearings? Ju Yuan calmly replied, it seems that I've scared Wu Huang too much, and he is now very determined to get rid of me. Wu Huang should have also felt Ju Yuan's progress what was clearly going to soon wrest the situation out of Wu Huang's control. Luluo lightly patted the ice bird, immediately causing it to release a clear cry. Its wings flapped, cold chi exploding behind it as its speed rapidly soared, transforming into a blur that swiftly shot forward. Not long after the ice bird transformed into a blur and disappeared into the distance, the mist began to ripple as three figures emerged. How fast? Wu Huang was expressionless. The vortexes in Yiming's eyes swirled as he indifferently said, Ju Yuan has very sharp spirit senses. His spirit should be pretty strong, allowing him to sense our approach. But don't worry, he can't escape. His gaze suddenly turned to another direction and flicked his finger. A ball of Genesis chi exploded, transmitting a peculiar undulation. Soon after, the mist in that direction was torn open as three figures emerged. They were the three other apex-level Dongxian geniuses. Jian Quan, how did it go? Yiming looked towards the youth who had barred Zhenshu's way. The baby-faced Jian Quan grinned as he nodded. He was pretty good, and had a very tough body. However, he is now injured and has fled into the fog. Yiming's pitch-black eyes scanned the area as he indifferently said, no rush, none of them can escape. Go. With a wave of his hand, he and Wu Huang flew forward. Their numbers has increased. Ju Yuan spread out his spirit senses in the fog, pouring all his energy into scouting. Soon after, his expression changed slightly. He could faintly feel that the Genesis chi undulations to their rear had increased. Moreover, each one was extremely strong, indicating that they did not belong to a weakling. Luluo's face also changed slightly, clenching her jaw as she said, looks like they plan to surround us. Ju Yuan frowned slightly. A brief moment later, the expression in his eyes suddenly turned solemn, as he thrust the heavenly Yuan brush in his hand. Snow-white hairs transformed into a long whip, as they shot towards a certain spot in the fog. A tree burst apart, revealing the figure behind it. Ju Yuan and Luluo's gazes shot over, only to be stunned. The figure's clothes were in tatters, making him look rather miserable. That pale complexion could only belong to the Yama sect's Zhenshu. Zhenshu. Luluo was surprised. Why are you hiding here? A thought suddenly struck Zhu Yuan as he gazed upon Zhen Shu's expressionless face. You were also attacked by those Dongxian people. Zhen Shu was silent for a moment, before he nodded. You couldn't beat your opponent. Luluo said with disdain. Zhen Shu frowned as he said, I do not fear the one who fought me, but there were two other individuals hidden nearby, who had locked onto me, causing me to split my attention, while not daring to use my full power. Hence how he found an opening. Luluo was stunned. So despicable. Luluo hatefully said, Why are these Dongxian people causing trouble for us? Zhu Yuan calmly answered, Because only those on your level can pose a threat to them. They are unified, while you guys are scattered. Breaking all of you one by one will naturally lower the morale of all the Kangmang geniuses, taking away their courage such that they will no longer be able to vie for the gifts and blessings of the Saint Remains domain. Zhen Shu coughed weakly twice, not saying anything as he turned around to leave. Zhu Yuan gazed upon Zhen Shu's back and suddenly said, They seem to be capable of seeing through the fog. I advise you to join us. Zhen Shu was obviously quite seriously injured. If he were to move alone, Wu Huang, Yiming and the rest would definitely catch up. When that happened, things would not be pretty. Zhen Shu's foot paused, turning his head slightly as his ash-colored eyes looked towards Zhu Yuan. I attacked you earlier, but you're still fine with helping me. Zhu Yuan smiled thinly. There is no big grudge between us, but the fact is that those fellows behind have joined up with Wu Huang. Thus, I naturally have to know what's important. Zhen Shu was silent. Stop being so wishy-washy. You should clearly know your current state. If you want to die, go ahead and leave. Zhen Shu's eyes flickered slightly. In the end, his figure suddenly launched into the air and landed on the icebird's back. Thank you. I will remember this debt, said Zhen Shu with some difficulty. He was clearly somewhat conflicted and embarrassed. After all, he had attacked Zhu Yuan not too long ago, but now needed to borrow the latter's strength. Zhu Yuan nonchalantly waved his hand. Wu Huang had allied himself with the Dongxian people, so he naturally needed to gather some allies of his own. Zhen Shu and the others, whom were being targeted by the Dongxian people, were obviously the best choice. What do we do now? Where do we go? They have the numbers superiority, while we have injured on our side. We will surely be wiped out if we face them. There was a bitter look on Luluo's face. Zhu Yuan pondered in silence for a few moments, his eyes flickering in thought. A short while later, he pointed towards the deepest depths of the fog. You said before that there are quite a number of grade 4 Genesis beasts, and even a mysterious Genesis beast leader, at the deepest part of the mountain range where the golden pool is. Yes. Then that's where we'll be heading. Only by stirring up some chaos will we be able to lose them. Fog pervaded the mountains as an icy shadow swept past. Zhu Yuan was seated on Little Frost's back, his spirit senses spreading outwards. Although the fog could distort one's sense of direction, Zhu Yuan was just barely able to guide them through his powerful spirit. To the left, uttered Zhu Yuan. Little Frost immediately shook its wings, turning directions. We've already reached the depths of the mountain range. Zhu Yuan glanced to his rear, his gaze frosty as he continued, they're still closely following us. How patient. He could detect several presences some distance behind, tailing them like shadows. It was clear that Wu Huang and Gang did not intend to give up so easily. Zhen Shu said in a low voice, What do we do now? Any deeper, and we will begin to encounter grade 4 Genesis beasts. Zhu Yuan's eyes narrowed slightly as he stared into the depths of the fog, faintly seeing a shimmer of gold, while he also began to sense several powerful Genesis chi ripples. They clearly nearing the golden pool. The Genesis ripples he had sensed likely belonged to the beasts protecting the pool. Zhu Yuan decisively declared, Go in. Luluo gritted her teeth and patted Little Frost. With a loud cry, its speed rose sharply. A short few minutes later, Zhu Yuan and group discovered that they had exited the fog. Behind the fog lay an ancient mountain forest where numerous towering trees proudly stood. Roar! Brief moments after Zhu Yuan and Gang charged out from the fog, a loud roar was suddenly heard. An enormous shadow descended from the sky with violent and dreadful power. Little Frost agilely shot forward, avoiding the shadow. Boom! The shadow slammed into the spot where Zhu Yuan and the rest had been just moments before, causing the ground to crumble. As dust began to fill the air, the Zhu Yuan trio saw a giant ape covered in scales. It ferociously stood there, its scarlet-red beast eyes staring at them. Powerful Genesis Chi undulations rippled around the scaled ape like a storm. A Grade 4 Genesis beast. The ferocious aura caused the trio's pupils to shrink. Against a Genesis beast of this level, they would have to use their full strength in order to put up a fight. A few seconds after the giant scaled ape appeared, the fog rippled once again, and 6 figures swiftly flew out, landing nearby Zhu Yuan's group. The 6 figures were naturally the closely following Wu Huang, Yi Ming and the rest. Roar! The scaled ape was greatly enraged by the sight of more humans invading. With a loud roar from its blood-red mouth, its titanic body leaped into the air as a giant fist ruthlessly smashed towards Wu Huang's group like a cannonball, heralded by an astonishing wind pressure. Even before the punch hit, the shape of a fist had already been imprinted into the ground. Wu Huang was indifferent as he watched the scaled ape rapidly grow in his eyes. 5 fingers tightened into a fist as his foot slammed into the ground, cracking it. His figure appeared in front of the ape in a split second, fist like a blazing rising sun, glaring with brilliant might that allowed no resistance. Boom! Man and beast fiercely clashed in the air as a ripple that could be seen with the naked eye unfurled, followed by a series of rapid booms as the air was blasted away. At the epicenter, the giant scaled ape released a cry of anguish as its enormous body was sent flying backwards. It crashed into the ground, causing the surrounding area to tremor. The ape's body tore across the ground, creating a long scar as towering trees continued to fall one after another. In contrast, Wu Huang had only been forced a dozen steps back before he slowly drifted down, his expression as indifferent as before. Besides Yi Ming, the other 4 from the Dongxian continent glanced at Wu Huang in amazement. Luluo could not help but remark, "This guy is really monstrous." Though she had previously finished off a Grade 4 Genesis beast, it had only been possible after pulling out all the stops. In comparison, Wu Huang had grandly suppressed a Grade 4 Genesis beast in a direct clash of power. A trace of graveness also appeared on Zhen Shu's pale expressionless face. No emotion was present in Wu Huang's gaze as he looked towards Zhu Yuan. "Did you believe that hiding here will make me afraid?" Zhu Yuan seemed to smile, a smile that had a hint of ridicule. Roar! It was at this moment that the giant scaled ape climbed to its feet and released a deafening roar of anger. The roar echoed into the distance, resounding across the mountain forest. Rumble! Almost immediately after, wild Genesis Chi began to explode in the depths of the forest one after another. The mountain forest shook as 4 giant beasts swiftly emerged, stopping behind the giant scaled ape. Genesis Chi churned around these 4 titans, clearly indicating that each and every one was a Grade 4 Genesis beast. Wu Huang and Yi Ming's expression finally changed slightly. Yi Ming shot a glance at Zhu Yuan and remarked, "What a beautiful plan of urging tigers to devour wolves. Unfortunately, it won't work." His pitch-black pupils stared at the 5 Grade 4 Genesis beasts before them as the vortexes within slowly began to swirl, and a strange ripple began to spread. The bodies of the giant scaled ape and the other Grade 4 Genesis beasts turned slack for a moment, black vortexes appeared in their eyes, as if they had fallen into a hallucination. Tears of blood fell from the corners of Yi Ming's eyes as a tired look appeared within them. He has taken control of the 5 Grade 4 Genesis beasts. Luluo's shocked voice sounded. Zhu Yuan's eyes widened at this moment. It's an eye technique powered by spirit energy. Genesis beasts may have strong bodies, but their spirits are comparatively weaker, making them easily countered by him. Zhu Yuan said in a low voice, "To the golden pool." Little frost shot forth the moment his voice rang out. "None of you will escape today." Wu Huang's icy voice followed, his figure transforming into a flash of scarlet light, fast as rushing thunder as he doggedly gave chase. Behind him, Yi Ming and the rest quickly followed. Rumble. 2 groups, one fleeing, one chasing, giving rise to a huge disturbance in the depths of the mountain range. They crossed numerous mountains in a short few minutes. Golden light soon blossomed before their eyes, only for them to see a giant mountain standing some distance to their front. The top of the mountain was akin to a volcano, only endless gold light spread from its mouth, dazzling like a pool of gold. The golden pool. Luluo's eyes glowed as she stared at the mountain top. Behind them, Wu Huang, Yi Ming and the rest closely followed, desire surfacing in their eyes as their gazes fell upon the resplendent golden pool. It seems that the golden pool blessings are fated to be ours. Yi Ming laughed as he rubbed his hands together. "I really have to thank you for leading the way." Roar. However, several roars suddenly rang out across the area the moment Yi Ming's laughter faded. Next, the pupils of everyone on both sides shrank when they saw enormous beast after beast appear on the mountain top, scarlet-red eyes rapidly locking onto the humans. Over a dozen grade 4 Genesis beasts. This lineup made the expressions of both parties change. However, it was still not over. The titanic beasts prostrated themselves, their heads lowered as if they were bowing. Jinshu's expression did not look too good either as he said, "Rumor speaks of a mysterious Genesis beast leader at the Golden Pool to whom numerous grade 4 Genesis beasts have yielded." Zhu Yuan's brows tightly knitted together. It seems that the rumors were true. This was really unlucky for them, tigers behind and wolves in front. If things become worse, we'll quickly escape amidst the chaos, said Zhu Yuan in a soft voice. Luluo and Jinshu nodded. Even Luluo was no longer thinking about the Golden Pool now. Some distance behind them, Wu Huang and Yi Ming's expressions turned grave. They could faintly feel an alarmingly powerful undulations in the depths of the golden light. Under their guarded gazes, a low roar filled with dignity rang out from the top of the giant mountain, causing every Genesis beast on the mountain to tremble. A giant figure slowly emerged from within the golden light. In the end, the figure stepped out, appearing in everyone's sights. Everyone was stunned the moment the figure revealed itself, because the thing that had appeared was no behemoth, but a dull grey little dog-like creature. The little beast yawned lazily, its beady eyes disdainfully looking towards the gathered crowd. Zhu Yuan and Luluo blankly watched this scene. Moments later, they were unable to stop themselves from vigorously rubbing their eyes before very carefully looking again, as their expressions turned extremely spectacular. Luluo asked in a hesitant voice, "Zhu Yuan, are my eyes deceiving me? Why does that little creature look almost exactly like Tunton?" Zhu Yuan was silent. In the end, he violently nodded his head. "Your eyes aren't wrong. This little bastard has been enjoying his time as a king here while we were outside desperately fighting for our lives." Numerous beasts had prostrated themselves at the top of the mountain. The target of their respect was unexpectedly not a mighty giant beast, but a mysterious little dull grey creature. Zhu Yuan and Luluo had naturally recognized it immediately. This little creature was the final one that had yet to be found ever since entering the Saint Remain's domain, Tunton. Even Zhu Yuan could not help but be somewhat stupefied, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Who could have expected that Tunton would be hiding here as the king of the mountain, enjoying a free and easy life? You know this little creature. In contrast to Zhu Yuan and Luluo's shock, Jinshu's face was filled with graveness. He was no ordinary individual, and naturally did not believe that the little creature was as simple as it seemed. Did no one see how respectful the other grade 4 Genesis beasts were being to it? The little creature was obviously the most terrifying Genesis beast here. "Don't worry, everything should be fine now," Zhu Yuan consoled. He then lifted his hand and waved at Tunton. However, Tunton ignored his wave, its eyes still filled with the same disdain. Jinshu shot a skeptical look at Zhu Yuan. The corners of Zhu Yuan's mouth twitched in embarrassment. Subsequently, he let out an icy laugh as his hand suddenly patted his universe bag, causing a piece of dried meat to appear. The moment the meat appeared, the disdain in the little creature's eyes instantly changed, transforming into a shadow as it shot forward with a swish. With a flip of his hand, the meat disappeared. Tunton appeared in front of him, circling him twice as it roared impatiently. "Are you going to continue pretending?" Zhu Yuan sneered. Tunton jumped into Zhu Yuan's arms, sticking out its tongue to lick the latter's face, a fawning look in its beady eyes. Zhu Yuan rolled his eyes, before throwing the dried meat to it. Zhu Yuan ignored Tunton, which was now immersed in the beautiful flavor of the dried meat, as he turned around with an unfriendly look in his eyes. His seemingly smiling gaze was cast at Wu Huang, Yi Ming and the rest, whom expressions had begun to change. Yi Ming's expression sunk slightly as he muttered, "How did this happen? Why does that mysterious little creature know him?" The scene before their eyes had already surpassed everyone's expectations. Wu Huang's complexion was a little ashen. There was indeed a little creature at Zhu Yuan's side, but I never imagined that it would be so capable that even these grade 4 Genesis beasts have submitted to it. Zhu Ying, Jiang Quan and the rest moved closer together, their expressions vigilant. If the little creature commanded these grade 4 Genesis beasts to attack them, they would have no choice but to flee. While the expression on the other side were looking pretty ugly, Zhu Yuan evilly looked towards them and coldly chuckled. "Didn't it feel really good when you guys were chasing us earlier?" Zhu Yuan gently patted Tunton's head, while his other hand pointed towards Wu Huang and Yiming. "You selfish creature, to think that you were enjoying your life here instead of protecting Yao Yao. Do you know that these two bastards ganged up on Yao Yao, resulting in her being injured, and we can't even find her now?" Tunton, who was originally still savoring the dried meat, suddenly stiffened. Its attention immediately left the meat as a somewhat terrifying roar was released from its throat. Tunton's intelligence was extremely high, and knew that its duty was to protect Yao Yao as her guardian beast. Thus, there was no way it would allow Yao Yao to sustain even the smallest injury, even at the expense of being unable to eat delicious dried meat. It lifted its head, its beady eyes staring straight into Zhu Yuan's own, as if confirming what he had said earlier. Zhu Yuan looked into its eyes and slowly nodded. Tunton silently threw away the dried meat in front of it, before jumping out of Zhu Yuan's arms as its beady eyes were cast towards Wu Huang and Yiming. Everyone could feel the astonishing ferocity that exploded from Tunton's tiny body at this moment. Roar! Scarlet light unfurled as Tunton's body abruptly grew. In a few breaths, a mysterious and dignified giant scarlet-red beast had appeared in front of Zhu Yuan's group. The scarlet armor on its body was akin to flowing magma, while the black light in its giant mouth seemed to be capable of devouring all things. A storm of Genesis chi violently swept out from its body, stirring up the surrounding space. Roar! Upon sensing Tunton's rage, the dozen Grade 4 Genesis beasts let loose deafening roars, making the entire mountain range shiver. The expressions of Wu Huang, Yiming and the rest involuntarily changed, clearly feeling the almost crazed killing intent in Tunton's roar. Boom! A dozen Grade 4 Genesis beasts suddenly shot forward, pouncing towards Wu Huang's group. Yiming decisively shouted, "Retreat!" Their figures rapidly withdrew. He, trying to escape. However, the moment they began to move, Luluor had already appeared some distance behind them riding Little Frost. Its wings flapped, shooting out a torrent of ice spikes. Her attack was instantly torn apart by Wu Huang and the rest, but the ice dust had already begun to drift across the area, seemingly freezing the space around them and slowing their speed. It was at this moment that the dozen Genesis beasts arrived amidst thunderous roars, their merciless attacks seemingly covering the sky as they swept towards Wu Huang's group. The land seemed to crumble. Wu Huang, Yiming and the rest did not dare to face the bombardment, their figures rapidly retreating. Tunton's flame-like scarlet eyes locked onto them. All of a sudden, its body transformed into a flash of scarlet light as it shot forward. Wu Huang's pupils abruptly shrank. He had seen a scarlet-red figure appear behind him from the corner of his eye. Enormous claws slashed downwards as strange black light flickered, washing the originally scarlet-red claws in a layer of black. 5 tears were ripped open in space itself, while the long scars were torn open on the ground below by the surplus force, their insides clean as a mirror. What a terrifying Genesis beast! Wu Huang's expression was grim. He could already feel the astonishing undulations contained beneath the claw. As for the flickering black light, it seemed to be an extremely tyrannical power. He did not dare to underestimate the attack at all. A thunderous shout exploded from his mouth. Little Heaven Genesis technique, Golden Crow Heaven Seal. One hand formed a seal as fiery red Genesis chi erupted, culminating into a seal of light that was several dozen feet large. Within the seal, a 3-legged golden crow was faintly discernible as it spat out boundless flames. The moment he used this move, the ground within 1,000 feet radius instantly dried and cracked. The light seal shot forward, slamming into the enraged Tunton's claw. Boom! The entire world seemed to shake for an instant. Next, a terrifying shockwave unfurled, blowing away everyone nearby. As the dust settled, everyone cast their gazes over. The ground had been sundered, creating an enormous crack. Tunton's giant body had also been sent flying backwards, its claws digging into the ground, leaving behind deep claw marks. Its claws were a little burnt, evidently due to Wu Huang's attack. Opposite Tunton, Wu Huang had slid over 100 feet back. His expression was pretty grim, the 5 deep to the bone wounds on his arm dripping with blood. Luluor's eyes nearly popped out from their sockets, clearly surprised that Wu Huang had been injured after a single clash. An angry Tunton is too scary, the ground was scorched black and in a complete mess. Wu Huang grimly looked towards the wounds on his arm as his eyes twitched slightly. He had not expected the sharpness of Tunton's claw attack to reach such an astonishing level. His Genesis Chi defenses had not put up much of a resistance, and were easily torn apart. Yiming approached Wu Huang, shooting a glance at the latter's arm as his pupils shrank slightly. This Genesis beast is not normal. Wu Huang nodded. Its bloodline is extremely powerful. The mysterious Genesis beast was ferociously overbearing. He did not dare to hold anything back against it. However, the current situation would very likely not allow him to engage it in a one-on-one fight. Wu Huang coldly said, "If you have nothing else up your sleeves, I will be finding a way to leave on my own. None of us will be able to escape if this continues." The current situation was extremely unfavorable to them. Without mentioning the watching Zhu Yuan and gang, just those dozen grade 4 Genesis beasts alone were already enough to give them a terrible headache. If this continued, things would go wrong sooner or later. Yi Ming also clearly understood this. He could not help but sigh as his gaze turned towards Zhu Yuan. "I did not expect the situation to develop in such a manner. Zhu Yuan is indeed a problem. No wonder he could become your archenemy. But don't worry, if we want to leave, they will not be able to stop us." He slowly walked forwards, both hands suddenly forming a seal as black vortexes surfaced in his pitch-black pupils and began to spin wildly. Night Devil Chi, Night Devil Heaven. 2 night black beams of Genesis Chi abruptly shot out from Yi Ming's eyes. In an instant, the entire land seemed to fall into an endless darkness. Darkness filled the sky and covered the land. Not only was one's sight obstructed, even one's spirit senses had been weakened to the limit. The grade 4 Genesis beasts lost their sense of direction, making them afraid to carelessly attack. They held their positions and took measures to guard themselves as they released low roars. "Keep close, gather together." Zhu Yuan's voice spread. Such darkness was difficult to dispel. Attacking alone would undoubtedly give the other side a chance to find an opening. Zhenshu and Luluo approached the origin of the voice, and kept close to Zhu Yuan's side. As for Tunton, its scarlet-red eyes swept across the area, before slowly moving backwards. "Truly troublesome," mumbled Yi Ming in the darkness. He had originally planned on catching them off guard before striking. If the other side was to carelessly attack, he could gather his forces and wipe them out as fast as possible. However, Zhu Yuan had swiftly responded, causing his plan to fail. "Looks like we can only withdraw." He shook his head, before flicking with his finger. A faint sound was transmitted into the ears of Wu Huang, Zhiying and the rest, causing everyone to immediately fall back. The darkness gradually faded. Luluo immediately looked towards the area Wu Huang and the rest had been at, only to find that it was now empty. Their figures were already at the edge of the horizon, evidently having decided to escape some time ago. They fled. The outcome was clearly not to Luluo's liking. Zhu Yuan also felt rather regretful. It had been an opportunity to bury Wu Huang, Yi Ming and the rest here, but their seemingly endless bag of tricks made this task very difficult. Zhu Yuan gazed in the direction they had disappeared in as his eyes narrowed slightly, icy killing intent flashing within. "No hurry, we will have our chance. We'll eventually have to decide the ultimate victor in the Saint Remains domain after all." In the wake of Wu Huang and gang's departure, the dozen grade 4 Genesis beasts turned around and roared at Zhu Yuan's group with the intent of chasing them off. Roar! However, Tunton roared at them, its thunderous roar shaking the forest. After being blasted by Tunton's roar, the grade 4 Genesis beasts slowly withdrew. Tunton shook its body as it swiftly began to shrink. In the end, it returned to its usual dull grey appearance, a little cute, but unremarkable. After the earlier battle, however, everyone clearly knew just how terrifying this lazy-looking little fellow was. Tunton jumped onto Zhu Yuan's shoulder, its beady eyes flickering as it patted him. "It's asking about Big Sis Yao Yao." Luluo helped interpret its words. Zhu Yuan patted Tunton's head and said, "Yao Yao has already escaped them and is fine for the time being. She is likely recovering somewhere, and will meet up again with us when she is back to full health." Only after hearing this did Tunton feel a lot more relieved. While they were talking, everyone suddenly sensed something and lifted their heads to peer into the sky. The Saint tablet had suddenly started shaking. Light converged towards it as ancient words began to appear. Luluo uttered in astonishment, "Someone has left their name on the tablet." Zhu Yuan and Zhenshu turned their attention over. Only Yao Yao, Wu Huang and Yi Ming had managed to leave their names on the Saint tablet, but now, another name was appearing beneath theirs. Jiang Quan, Dongxian Continent. Battle accomplishment, Battle Zhenshu, victory. Luluo cast a sympathetic gaze towards Junshu. Having his name up there as a negative example was honestly a little humiliating. Junshu's complexion was as pale as ever, no emotion visible on his face as he calmly said, "If not for his teammates hiding nearby, it would not have been so easy for him to beat me." However, his hands were tightly clenched, evidently not as cool inside as he appeared on the surface. After all, Junshu naturally had his pride as one of the apex-level geniuses of the Kangman continent. Zhu Yuan nodded in agreement. Given the pride displayed by Junshu, the former believed that these were not the words of a sore loser. Moreover, those Dongxian people were indeed very unscrupulous. Anyone could see that from how they choose to ignore fairness and gang up on Yao Yao. Moments after Jiang Quan's name appeared, light began to gather again below it as another name swiftly began to emerge. Zhu Ying, Dongxian continent. Battle accomplishment, battled Luluo, narrow victory. The corners of Luluo's mouth instantly curved downwards. She had just mocked Junshu, and now she too had become another negative example. How infuriating. Since when did I lose to her? Luluo clearly did not accept this judgment. If not because she had been caught by surprise and let Little Frost be trapped, stopping them from combining their power, what could Zhu Ying possibly do against them? While Luluo was shouting, light began to appear again, as another name slowly surfaced. Zhu Yuan, Kangman continent. Battle accomplishment, battled Zhu Ying. Victory. An expression of shock appeared on Zhu Yuan's face. He never imagined that his previous battle with Zhu Ying would be acknowledged by the Saint Tablet, allowing his name to be engraved upon it. I've actually gotten my name on the tablet. Zhu Yuan beamed as he gazed at the dazzling Saint Tablet in the sky, clearly rather surprised by this outcome. Although he had taken the upper hand in the battle against Zhu Ying, he had been interrupted by Wu Huang, Yi Ming and the rest before he could properly defeat her. But it seems that the Saint Tablet had still acknowledged that battle. Was it because the gap between our cultivation levels was too large? On the surface, Zhu Yuan was only at the initial Heaven Gate stage, while Zhu Ying was quasi-alpha origin, a tremendous disparity. Hence from a certain point of view, the battle itself could be considered a remarkable achievement. Luluo was seething as she said, "Does this mean that I can't even compare to you?" She had lost to Zhu Ying, and Zhu Ying had lost to Zhu Yuan. Didn't this mean that she was 2 levels below Zhu Yuan? Zhu Yuan chuckled. "Relax, if we meet Zhu Ying again, you will definitely be able to take revenge as long as you're on guard against her Genesis beast trapping method." His words were not solely consolation. Once Luluo and Little Frost were linked, her strength would reach an astonishing level that was enough to kill ordinary Alpha Origin experts. Luluo gently bit down as she declared, "I'll not let her off when I see her again." Her large eyes suddenly rotated, a wide smile emerging on her face, as she looked towards Zhu Yuan's shoulder where Tunton currently was. "Hee, good boy Tunton. Are you the boss here?" Tunton nodded in a rather pleased manner. Luluo's eyes brightened. "Which is to say, you've taken possession of the golden pool." Tunton seemed to realize something, its eyes now guarded as it stared at Luluo. Zhu Yuan's heart shook a little. He could also sense that Tunton was quite a bit stronger than before. Could it be due to the golden pool? "Good boy Tunton, lend us the golden pool for a while, okay?" Luluo's large eyes blinked appealingly. Tunton shook its head. "Petty." Luluo glared at it. By the side, Zhu Yuan rubbed his chin. He too wanted to have a look at the golden pool. It had not been easy for them to come here, and he naturally hoped to obtain a share of the blessings. However, Tunton was clearly the boss here, so they needed to convince it somehow. Zhu Yuan let out a dry cough, before he began to speak in a seemingly sincere and heartfelt manner. "Tunton, don't those bastards that ganged up on Yao Yao make you angry?" Roar. The hair all over Tunton's body began to stand up, an ominous glint appearing in its beady eyes as it growled. "We are also very angry." Zhu Yuan nodded. "But you saw it, right? There are quite a few of them, and if we want our revenge, we will also have to gather up more teammates while raising our strength. Now look at the golden pool. It should be pretty beneficial to us if we are allowed to enter for a while. Raising our strength will enable us to better seek justice for Yao Yao against those guys, don't you think so?" Tunton hesitated upon hearing this. It could feel that Zhu Yuan's argument was rather reasonable. The previous clash against Wu Huang had taught it just how formidable the latter was. After pondering for a few brief moments, Tunton finally gave in and nodded. "Hee, Zhu Yuan is the best. Luluo immediately cheered upon seeing this. By the side, Jinshu was silent for a moment before he said, "Since Wu Huang and the rest have already withdrawn, I should also leave." He was pretty much a loner, while also being extremely prideful. Being saved once by Zhu Yuan was already weighing pretty hard on him, making him feel that he owed the latter a debt of gratitude. If he were to stay and partake in the blessings Zhu Yuan had basically single-handedly acquired for them, he would not know where to bury his head. Zhu Yuan merely smiled when he heard this. "Since you already owe me, would it matter whether it's once or twice? Jian Quan is tagging along with Wu Huang, Yiming and the rest, and will surely obtain various blessings, raising his strength. If you don't plan on falling behind, I advise you not to give up on this one." Zhu Yuan was no Samaritan, but merely wanted Zhen Zun in his camp. After all, Wu Huang had teamed up with the Dongxian people, forming a rather alarming lineup. To match them, Zhu Yuan would have to recruit a few apex-level geniuses to his side. Such geniuses were definitely proud individuals, making it an uphill task to convince them. Hence, Zhu Yuan chose to work on them through kindness and benevolence, which was also one of the ways to win over others. Zhen Shu was no fool, and naturally understood Zhu Yuan's intentions. Jian Quan may have engaged underhanded tactics against Zhen Shu, but even without them, he would never let Jian Quan off. Hence, after some silence, Zhen Shu finally said, "I will repay these debts in the future." Zhu Yuan waved his hand, before grinning at Tunten. "I'll be troubling you to lead the way." Tunten seemed to sigh as if greatly pained by the act of sharing its beloved things. It powerlessly got up, and headed towards the top of the giant mountain. The Zhu Yuan trio hurriedly followed. Genesis beasts would peer towards them from time to time, but none dared to show themselves due to Tunten. In the end, Zhu Yuan and gang smoothly reached the mountain top. The giant mountain top was akin to the mouth of a volcano, but it was instead filled with golden liquid, making it a pool of gold. Golden light blossomed as a faint, strange fragrance spread. Zhu Yuan, Luluo and Zhen Shu gazed at the golden pool with desire. They could feel the Genesis chi within their bodies grow lively. "Is this the golden pool?" The trio drooled, their hearts beating faster as they gazed upon it. Tunten was the first to jump in. It idled about on the surface, its eyes slightly shut, as if was the best feeling in the world. Zhu Yuan and the rest watched as strands of golden light from the rippling golden water began to pour into Tunten's body. "The blessing is already before us, how much we gain will depend on ourselves." Zhu Yuan smiled at Luluo and Zhen Shu, before he also hopped in. With Little Frost in her arms, Luluo's eyes glowed brightly, no hesitation whatsoever, as she leaped in and began joyously cheering inside with Little Frost. Zhen Shu's heart rippled for a brief moment, and swiftly followed suit. Once Zhu Yuan was inside, he could feel a peculiar golden light endlessly rush towards him. The golden light poured into his body, and was greedily devoured by his squirming flesh and blood. Golden light fused into his blood, making it flow with greater gusto and force. It fused into his muscles, making them stronger and filling them with explosive power. It fused into his bones, making them harder and sturdier. Golden light washed across his body, some of it eventually arriving at his chi dwelling. The dark gold Genesis chi within also began to greedily absorb the light, rapidly growing more and more powerful. As he felt his strength grow, Zhu Yuan fell into a kind of drunken stupor. His eyes were tightly shut, as if never intending to wake up ever again. However, Zhu Yuan ultimately broke out from this state. He unhappily opened his eyes, only to see Tunten licking his face. "What the heck?" Zhu Yuan glared at it. Tunten tugged at Zhu Yuan's clothes with its mouth before sinking towards the bottom of the golden pool. Zhu Yuan was taken aback. Did Tunten want him to follow? Was there something at the bottom of the pool? He hesitated for a moment, taking a glance at Luluo and Zhen Shu were. The two seemed to be sleeping in the golden pool, clearly drunk in the changes happening inside their bodies. "I'll follow and take a look." Zhu Yuan thought for a bit, before decisively diving into the pool. He was rather curious, what exactly had captured Tunten's interest. This video will end here.